Okay, we are now recording. This is conference call, what is this, 6 or 7? I think
Sure.
It's number 7, right? Yeah, number 7. Yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah, that works.
That works. I'm going to try to share my screen here just in case we need it. I was looking at the Apple Valley Police Department. I was looking at their website and looking at all of the fun stuff that they've been doing over there. I did call Detective Gummert. They once again confirmed that he is on leave, on medical leave, and they transferred me to the guy who's in charge, the new, what's this guy's name? Let's try to pull him up here. Nick Francis is the guy who's taken over for that. So I've been trying to just get one answer, just a yes or no, a syllable, a single syllable that would just say yes or no. Were their dog feces tests done? That's it. So I even left him that. I don't know if I did last time, if I told Captain Nick Francis what I really wanted, but I figured, okay, he hasn't gotten back to me. It's been about two weeks, I think. So called him again today, and my plan is just to call him once every week until we get some type of answer, and hopefully we'll get something. I mean, they're very responsive usually, so this is a little unusual.
Well, maybe
for me.
he's just overwhelmed and swamped with trying to catch up and get up to speed with what Gummert was doing.
It could be. I mean,
Yeah.
We're talking about something that's closed, right? I mean, I don't know what other tasks they had going on too. So that is true, and that's why I'm not trying to overwhelm them, not trying to call them on and on and on. But I mean, it's just like I said, it's just a simple question, simple Q&A.
Yes or no.
Yes or no? Yes. Come on, give me an answer. That's all you have to do. Answer what is.
Well, if Detective Gummert is listening, I really hope he gets better. Whatever's going on, I hope it's okay.
Yeah, I do too. I hope he's all right, and it's just, personal time that he needed off. But for a medical leave, I just definitely have been keeping him in my prayers.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, I guess we should begin here. We do have some other people on the line as well, so everybody is free to kind of join in and say whatever you want to say. Catherine, is there anything that you would like to say right now, or any topics you want to make sure that we bring up, anything like that?
Other than I'm really tired? Oh, boy. Not really. I have really kind of dropped the ball this whole week, and I'm sorry. But you had sent a link to the research documents. Now, was there something in there you wanted us to go back and look over for tonight's discussion?
No, I just kind of put those in there. I just figured if I was going to share anything with the people who are going to join this call, or anybody who was going to look at anything related to this call, I think I just wanted to show them that we have a lot of these research documents all in one place that you can get to in case you haven't seen any. I know there's a few that I've even gone back through, and I'm like, oh, I haven't really looked at this one. I haven't really gone through this one. So it was really good that we got to bring up the search warrants about a week and a half ago or so. So I've been kind of going back through all of those. The Apple Valley Police property receipts that show everything that they took from the house. I think all that stuff's good too. I've been looking more into some interesting stuff that I hope we get a caller on who's gonna kind of help us with that. Maybe discuss some angles that we haven't discussed too much here. So I'm just gonna ask right now. I'm gonna ask if there is some background noise. If I hear some background noise, I'm just going to put you on mute. You should be able to unmute yourself if you do want to speak, so I don't want you to think because I mute you that means that you can't talk or anything. This was always meant to just be a place where the group, where real researchers could just come here and kind of chat, ask questions, bounce off topics. So there's nothing off topic. There's nothing that we shouldn't be able to talk about here. I don't want anybody to feel like, we're only going to cover certain things. So I just trying to pull up my agenda here that I have.
Okay, well, while you do that, I did remember something that I want to give everyone an update on, and that is the cell phone bills. There's been someone, and they have been contacting me. We've been going back and forth via email, and they just about have it explained to me to where I can explain it to everybody else.
Oh, nice.
What all of those phone numbers mean and how to actually read the report. So they had written back, but I didn't get back to them in time today. So hopefully by the next time we actually do a conference call, I will be able to explain to everyone what all of those loop-de-loops mean. Because that's all it is just a constant loop, and maybe try to figure out why.
Do you have your spreadsheet that shows the list of inconsistencies?
I do. Let me pull that up.
I'd like to go through some of those. I think that would be a great place to start. I mean, by this time, I think everybody kind of knows what the cops said, right? What the what the police think is true, that David Crowley killed his wife, killed himself, and killed his 5-year-old daughter, is responsible for all of eating all of these bones. The dog is pretty much responsible for all of the missing limbs, all the stuff, probably the missing blood, and who knows what else. But I think we've been asking relevant questions, and I think it's always been a lot of us who have been just trying to ask the relevant questions based on what we are told by the cops, based on what we are told by investigators, based on what the documents say, nothing else. I think that's been the biggest, strongest point, and I think that's what real researchers are also looking for, too. They're just looking for data, and I'm finding that we're having a lot of new people, a lot of people that are just getting involved in this case, and I went back through my videos, and I was like, I made all of these videos. Not one of them really goes through it step by step and kind of breaks it down A, B, C, D, which is kind of what I'm working on. Well, it is what I'm working on for my book, but I do think at some point, a video like that would definitely be very, very helpful. And the more that we go back and look at all of the strange things that happen from the very start, you can just add these things up, and you can see that there's much more than what we are being told. And if there wasn't, I do believe that the investigators would have it. I do believe that they would have made a bigger fuss out of it, and they would not have quietly closed this case after 1 year.
Right. It just seems so strange, especially with all of the information that they had access to. How did they look at that and then close it? Just that still doesn't make sense to me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And we do have the chat room open too, so if anybody wants to join in there, and we'll have that chat open. If you're in the chat and if you'd like us to bring up any topics, we'll try to make sure that we bring up anything that's in the chat room. Figure we'll go about maybe 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours, kind of play it by there and see how far we get. Let's see.
Okay, and I have that list up now. Is there something you wanted to talk about in particular? Oh, somebody has written something. Someone states, a guest, and I can't see the name. It just says, recently listened to discussion about suspicious persons call a neighbor. Seems like a huge point to ponder. I'm not quite sure what they're saying.
I think they might be talking about the suspicious person that was in the house on January 19th, 2 days after the bodies were found. There was a 911 call that was placed by a neighbor, And that 911 call is what led the cops to Chris Klein, and then from Chris Klein, that leads the cops to the bullet, the missing bullet, item 57, that was found in the living room attic, or in the attic above the living room. So I think that's probably what they're talking about. And to me, when I first heard about that, that was the big smoking gun. You know, that's still like one of the biggest things that I cannot wrap my head around what logical reason this would be for. And I've heard it all, and I've looked at it all, and I've taken it all seriously, and I just don't get it. There was no Christmas tree blocking it. There's no way they should have missed a big hole in the living room. No way. I don't care if it was.
Yeah, especially when they say when they go back to check it out, their exact words were an obvious bullet hole in the ceiling.
Yeah.
Well, if it's obvious the minute they open the door, why wasn't it obvious between how many people were there? I mean, there were, 15, 20 people, maybe more, for how many hours, and nobody saw it?
That's right.
Yeah, that still gets me.
And of all of the people that contacted us, that contacted Dan and myself, I know that we brought that up. Nobody mentioned it. It wasn't mentioned in the city pages. It was an article by, I think his name is Corey Zorowski. He didn't mention it, even though he found it odd. When the documentary film crew came to my mom's house, I made sure that I mentioned it to them. Well, they found it odd, but they didn't put it in this sloppy-mentary, documentary, whatever you want to call it. There was another guy, Alec Wilkinson, who contacted me, and he didn't put it in what he wrote. So it was just like everybody knew. They all knew this is like the biggest piece, but you could tell they did not want to go there. They wanted to go down the conspiracy route, but they didn't want to go down the real conspiracies here. They just wanted to focus on, well, the government did it, just stick to their scripts, the things that they were using to try and discredit anybody that was simply asking questions. And I'm talking about days in, before anybody is supposed to know anything, before the police have closed their case, all of that stuff. And we're getting hit. We got hit by just a bunch of random people that I've never heard of, and they're telling me just all this weird random stuff. Anyway, like somebody's breaking into a car.
I know. Is that at your house?
That's not at my house, but please, if you're breaking into somebody's car, please try to mute yourself while you're doing that. If you could. Okay, you can unmute yourself once the cops start chasing you and all that, but at least for this purpose, help us out. Once you get in, once you drive away. Yeah, I could just hear it now. The Justice for David Crowley group wants people to break into cars. They're
advocating criminal activity.
All right. Anyways.
Okay, and Angela from Wyoming says, living in a smaller community, lots of PD staff know lots of people from childhood, high school, college, etc. Anybody research ties between AVPD and the key characters?
That's a great question. That's a really great question. The answer is yes, obviously, because there are questions about if there were any type of informants involved in this case. I haven't found anything conclusive. What I find kind of strange is how the whole Gray State team seemed to know everything before anybody else did.
Right.
They were pushing it out to anybody who would actually listen and take them seriously. The people that wouldn't take it seriously, they pushed them harder. So I think that's a very, very valid question, and I'd be curious to know if there are ties, if there are any ties.
Well, wasn't Kate's brother or something, David's uncle or somebody? They had a family member who was a police officer, correct? Who died in the line of duty?
Yes, I think his name was John Bergeron, if I remember correctly, which is Kate's maiden name, something like that. But yeah, but he was, and I forget what department he worked for, but I do believe it was in Minnesota. Very close with or I guess David, from what I was told by third-party people, he was very close with David. You know, they were. It was just, there were no issues or anything like that, and it sounds like the whole family, in general, both sides, Kate's side and Dan Sr. It sounds like both sides had a very high respect for cops in general. So that was a feeling that I kind of got. But yeah, so there might be ties. As far as I know, I haven't found any, but I think it's a great question, and I do believe it's probably a question that a lot of people asked that were getting cyberbullied within those first couple days or whatever. And I think a lot of that, hopefully a lot of that stopped once we stopped going through these people who were telling us lies and stopped just listening to what they were saying and started to create a dialogue with the cops ourselves. I think that's, I learned a lot more. I learned a lot of what to do, what not to do, how to treat people. Obviously, you don't just call people up, start yelling at them, right? It's all about how you treat them, and that's generally how they will treat you. So.
Yeah, and I'm interested too, and I'm not quite. I know I haven't done any research between those who claim to have been David's friends, and if they have any ties with the Apple Valley Police Department either. I haven't really looked into that myself. I just know that Kate had a brother who died. Have you done any research on the friends, Greg?
Possibly. Maybe.
Okay, we'll say no for now.
I don't want to lie, but you have to go down every angle. You have to look at everything. It doesn't mean you have to be a stalker. It doesn't mean you have to, even there's ways that you can do this. And I think the first thing you have to start with is prayer. With whatever you do, start there. That's where I start, and then I just kind of just let God guide me to wherever I should be going. And it's been quite the journey, quite the spider web of just going down all these different trails, going down so many trails that sometimes I forget to, how many trails I've been going down. So it's, yeah. This is definitely, this case is, spiritually, I'm not saying there was any demons or anything like that involved in this case, but for me, spiritually, it's been a very tough case. It's been a very trying case because it does dwell on my soul. It does dwell on my heart. And there were times where I could not sleep. There were times where I felt that anxiety, and other times where I felt like I was spending too much time on this, and I had to kind of take a few steps back, and it actually helped me. If I would have just kept going forward full speed, I probably would look back right now and see, and see a lot of the faults that I made. I still made many faults, but I think if I would have moved faster and been a little more hasty, I probably would have messed up a lot more and probably would have damaged a lot more too. So it's all a learning process.
And I think that's true for everyone. And I don't know of anyone who can research any type or investigate any type of case and not make mistakes. That's to be expected. But it's how a person handles those mistakes. It's like, okay, oops, that was the wrong track. Scratch that off the list. Now let's turn around and go back and look at this at a different angle. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's when someone gets their head stuck in one direction and one direction only, and then refuses to acknowledge any other evidence. That's when I think it becomes a problem.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Well, we got 7 people on the line right now. I know we got Sophia, and I think Pansy is on the line too, and maybe a couple other people. If anybody wants to join in and say anything, you're more than free to. It's okay if we start talking over each other. It's all a learning process that we have to get over, and it's been that's been one of the bigger challenges, I think, because we have so many strong people, and so far we haven't really had any major issues on the call live or anything like that. And even after the call and all that, I haven't really seen it. So I think this is a great opportunity for all of us to just chat. There is no wrong thing that you can say here, unless you're just being totally just rude or mean or cyberbullying or anything like that, being a stalker or just a freaking weirdo or something. But as long as you're not doing that, as long as we're talking about this case, I want people to feel free to just jump in here. Just go ahead and jump in.
Yeah, and Angela asked another question, but she's asking, what was the mention of Judy's job as a civilian surveillance? And she says, I'm not even sure I'm remembering it correctly, and also her son's legal problems and pot trafficking. Since Dan really was the one who did all of the research on that, should we wait and see if Dan can jump on and let him answer that?
I think that would be best. I know this was talked about in one of the last calls, I believe. It might have been the last call we had kind of talked about that. And Judy was a part of some neighborhood watch thing that surveilled their neighbors or something. It was, it was something like that. And I was like, what? And then he said it again, and I was like, what? And so, now I'm glad it's being brought up again because I need to understand exactly what that is too. And about Eric Prochnow, I think we've covered that too. There's a video that Dan has done on that. So if you haven't seen Dan's video on Eric Prochnow, I definitely go and watch that. I think it just that kind of gives you all of the public data that is out there, and it isn't like Dan is trying to make any ties where there isn't. It's just looking at, well, here's what happened. Here's, the case, and here's he got off, basically, for whatever he got, whatever his legal problems were. He doesn't have those now. And he was carrying a lot of weed, Yeah. So that was odd, because it was just like, okay, you're carrying that much weed, you get off because of a whatever, because you got a good lawyer or something, I guess, but
yeah, and I still don't understand that. I've read several of those documents, and, it's like, I guess, more power to him. However, the officer who stopped him and pulled him over had a very long history, and in fact, that was his job, was drug trafficking. And I am not saying that's what Eric was doing, so don't anybody put words in my mouth. But the police officer's experience was drug trafficking and how to stop people and how to spot those who are transporting drugs illegally. So the fact, and from everything I read on his stop, it was a completely legal stop. So to have him say that it was an illegal stop and then get the case thrown out is just beyond my comprehension. But like I said, more power to Eric. He got it to work for him.
Yeah, because I think first they said that the cop could search the car, and then they kind of backtracked. And I think that was the legal issue that got them off or something. I don't know. I mean, to me, it's like, it's just weed, first of all. It's not like, it's not like he was carrying real drugs, what I would consider real drugs or anything like that. But it was an interesting case. The reaction to it, I think, was even more curious, because it was just craziness. Right, Eric Prochnow comes into the group talking all this smack and all this stuff, and it was just like, I don't know. I even tried to give him a chance to tell his side, and things went kind of crazy. And I grew up where people were screaming and cussing and yelling. I'm not going to go through that. I'm too old. I'm 40 years old. I'm not going to sit there and get into a screaming match or an argument or anything like that with somebody.
Right.
I don't care how old they are. Nobody's going to get to me like that ever again.
Right, and good for you, though. No, really, that's a good way to handle it. So now, do you want to start going over? I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, just on that, and let's move on to the last one. But if he does want to have a conversation, if he's cooled down, and if he does want to chat in the future live, it could just be us, just he and I. He can tell whatever he wants to say and call us whatever names he wants to call us. That invitation is still open to him. I just need to have a little clarification with him that we're not going to be sitting there cussing at each other and all that. So.
Right. And it would be good. That way he wouldn't have to worry about anybody trying to, jump on him or bully him, and he could still say his piece.
Yeah, we do that here. We've done that here with people. If you want to jump on here, say your piece and all that, and do it. If it's relevant, which really with Eric Prochnow, to me, it's not, his stuff is not really relevant to this case. He made it relevant, more relevant than it really should be. So, anyways.
Yeah. So now on this list of inconsistencies, do you want me just to read them off, or should we read one and see if anyone has any comments?
Let's read one off, see if somebody wants to comment on it, and see how far we get.
Okay, so everyone type fast or jump in and talk, because otherwise we'll move forward. The first one on the list that I found is the gun. According to the reports, they have it written several different ways. But one of those ways is the gun is either a couple inches or 1 foot from David's left hand, and David was right-handed. So the fact that the gun was on the left side of his body when he's right-handed is inconsistent with where the gun would have fallen.
Right, because there's no photos, we haven't seen anything that would show us that David Crowley was left-handed. Shouldn't that have been part of what the police were actually looking for? The fact that was it even possible? Was it plausible? What are the odds that David shot himself with his left hand when most of the photos and videos and everything that you see show him clearly holding the gun? His trigger is on the right hand, not on the left hand.
Yeah, especially, yes, and then having the exit wound on the left parietal, in the left parietal bone, close to where the ear was. So that would be really difficult with a left hand.
That's right. So he would almost have to have it curved.
Yeah.
Kind of into his mouth with his left hand, and then shoot himself kind of with the gun pointed towards the left side of his face, kind of.
Well, and I know a lot of people, and I even read it in one of the articles where the police state that David shot himself in the front, in the front of his head, or the front of his face. Now that is, I'm going to take huge issue with that, because the autopsy report clearly states that the trajectory is they can't determine where that bullet entered. They only know where it exited. So for the police to say that he shot himself in the front of his face and then have it exit through the left parietal bone, that just doesn't make sense.
Could that be because because of where it actually exited, that's where it would be the only logical thing? Like, it couldn't have come from the back of his head, right? It couldn't have come from the side of his head. It's kind of what it sounds like they're saying, because there's no wound or anything, because the whole right side of his head is still there.
No, I thought part of it, only his left side was there, part of the left parietal bone. Most of the right side was missing, and some of the back was still attached to the spine. So I'm assuming it's the occipital region, which was still attached to the spine. But since the right side of his head was pretty much missing, and the front of his face was missing.
I thought it was the other way around.
Well, if it's exiting, if they see an exit wound on the left parietal, the left side has to be there.
I'm gonna have to go back and look, because when I look at that image, it looks like you can see through his left eye. There's nothing really there, and the whole left side of his cheek, like the cheek and all that stuff, looks like it's all gone. There's nothing there. That's the left side, right?
That's the right side that's facing the camera.
I don't think
You're talking about the one photo we do have?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That is the right photo we do have?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That is the right side that is facing the camera. I can pull up. I'm going to get the autopsy reports real quick.
Okay. Let's see. There was another question about the toxicology. Why those results didn't show any weed, any alcohol, any shrooms, anything. So based on the toxicology that we do have, which to me is like, okay, this is great. I see what the toxicology, what the report is. It doesn't tell me much because I have no idea what I'm looking at. This might as well be French or Spanish or something. So when they say spleen volatile screen, the ethanol 0.109 G-DL within propanol and decomposition peaks present, I'm just like, I have no idea what you're talking. Just, were there drugs? Yes or no? You know?
No.
No. Okay, nothing.
It says that the immunoassay negative, no basic or neutral drugs present, or present on chromatography.
That's on the liver drug screen.
Right, but the spleen is just basically stating that there's the typical amount of alcohol found in the system upon decomposition, and that they found decompositional peaks present in their test. But there were no drugs found, no basic or neutral drugs present that they could find on the chromatography.
And those tests should have been a part of this too, right? Or is it just? I don't know how the whole toxicology test works, I guess, either.
You know, and that was something I forgot to check. I was going to call and check with BCA to see if marijuana is a standard drug. I'm pretty sure it is. It's one that they automatically test for. And
well, let's say, I mean, in this case, because there was weed found on the table, they should have at least tested for it, I would think, if it's out there. Yes. Now, because the bodies were, let's just say, let's say that they were there for 3 weeks. Let's just say that for 3 weeks, okay? What are the odds that weed would even show up or anything like that would show up when the bodies were so badly decomposed as they were found, even with 1 week? Would there be a difference between 1 week and 3 weeks?
I think that they would, since there was enough hair left from both David and Kamel, they could have easily done testing on the hair, but it doesn't look like that's what they did. It looks like they only tested the liver. Now, the liver, I think, would probably metabolize most of any drugs that may or may not have been taken at the time. So most medical examiners during the autopsy will take the vitreous fluid from the eye, but since they were all missing their eyes, that was not possible. So they had to test what was available, which was the liver. But at the same time, again, they did have access to hair, which would have told them for sure how often they at least smoked pot, if they did at all. Now, and according to the autopsy reports too, and I'm reading this directly, and this is off of David, it says gunshot wounded the head. Entrance, indeterminate. Pathway and trajectory, indeterminate. The exit is the left parietal bone with external beveling and radiating linear fractures and scalp. So it's the left side of his head that was still there. Now it says, on the external examination, it says, let me find it. The posterior, the back, scalp is intact with patchy short brown hair. Fragments of skull and additional small bones recovered separately from the body at the scene are described in a separate section.
Wow.
So there was just part of the back of his head and then the left part of his head.
Okay. It looks different than what I see here, but I'm going to go with what the autopsy results say.
Well, and you have to remember that that photo you are looking at, it's taking a photo from the right side of his body. So what's closest to the camera is the right side.
Well, I mean, you can see his, I don't know. I guess I'm going to have to go back and look at it or something, but all right.
Yeah, it says the entrance, this is also part of the autopsy under a gunshot wound of the head. The entrance gunshot wound site and trajectory are indeterminate due to absence of the majority of the head. No projectile fragments are recovered.
But the exit is in the left, okay.
Yes, on the left parietal scalp, centered approximately 9 inches above the left shoulder and 4 inches left of the posterior midline is a gunshot wound.
Ugh.
So that's strictly the left side.
That's odd to me. Okay.
Well, when you're looking at that photo, it's like you're looking on the inside of his head.
Yeah, and you can see through the left side, right? Maybe it's the right side. I don't know. I haven't looked at the image in a while, so I really try not to look at it.
Yeah. Okay, so since no one else has asked a question, we'll move on to number 2, and that is where the blue blanket is over David's legs. Now, they're saying he shot himself, but yet there's a blue blanket over his legs. Quite neatly, by the way.
Yeah, would you know where the blue blanket is mentioned?
Yes, that would be in, that would be the final BCA report. Let me get the other one. Hold on.
The 40-pager?
I think so.
This has a portion of Kamel's sweater.
Yes.
Was draped over his lower right leg.
Yes. That I mentioned in another section in the Inconsistencies, because he has not only the blue blanket, but her brown sweater covering his legs.
Yeah, I don't get that.
Okay, I am trying to find that report. It's the long one that it said BCA final. I know I printed it out.
Yeah, I think it's the one we're looking at here.
Okay, I'm trying to find it in my notes.
Okay.
Oh, wait, here it is.
I also love how they just mention the item 53 and item 57 as if they found it that same day, too.
Right,
That just blows my mind.
I know, they should have added, that those items were found later on. But yes, it says, David Timothy Crowley was lying on his back with his arms spread to the side. His right hand was missing, and only the back portion of his skull remained attached to the spine. He was wearing a long white sleeve T-shirt with a gray short sleeve T-shirt over it, a navy blue undershirt, exposed light blue underwear, navy blue athletic pants, and rope bracelets on his left wrist. His left bare foot was covered by a blue blanket, and his right bare foot was partially exposed. But
that's odd too, because his left foot is closest to the window.
Yes. Yeah.
But his right foot was not. Right,
yeah, the foot closest to Kamel was partially exposed. The left foot is covered. And
which first thought for me would be, well, maybe the dog moved things, but if the dog is allegedly eating all of these body parts, I think it might have tried to eat David's feet or something like that too before some of the other body pieces, especially the skull and all that, the bones.
Right. Right. They're saying that the dog supposedly ate all of her head. His foot's right by her head, but it's Interestingly, completely untouched. It just cracks me up. I'm like, wow, okay. And Amy in Wyoming, I'm sorry, not Amy. I think, was it Angela in Wyoming? Oh, there we go, Angela. She wanted to know if the picture of the legs and blanket is out there. Now, I think you have one, correct? You have a photo that shows some of that, like not his whole body, but some of the leg and feet?
The only one that we have, if you go back, and this, I think this was a part of the original 464 photos, it does show there's an image where it's kind of further back. You're looking at the blood wall, right, the writing, and at the very bottom you can see David's his right toe, his big toe. So you can see some of his feet in there, and it's interesting because you can only see his right foot. You don't see the left foot. So I'll have to go back and look at that. But that's the only one that I know of that shows any part of David's feet.
Yeah, I think so too. I just remember seeing someone had zoomed in and cropped it. So I think that's the photo I'm thinking of. Same photo you're talking about, but it was the cropped out part. Yeah.
Yeah, which is that's another odd thing. Definitely odd. Anybody want to jump in here before we move on to the next thing?
Okay.
I know you're out there.
I know. The next one is.
You just want to say, just waiting for the right moment. I get it.
I know, maybe they're waiting for the right one to come up, the right topic. Okay, number 3 is blood spatter is medium velocity due to blunt force trauma and flows in at least 4 different directions on the floor. So, we know that gunshots produce high velocity blood spatter, but that blood spatter on the floor that I have seen and on the wall is medium velocity, and medium velocity is due to blunt force trauma, and especially on the floor, it goes in 4 separate directions. So either the person being attacked is moving, they're on the move, or the person doing the attacking is moving around.
So a struggle.
Yes, some type of, or maybe they decided they wanted to, I'll hit you while I'm facing the left. Now I'm going to hit you while I'm facing the right. We don't know, but we definitely know there are 4 different directions of blood flow.
All in the same area?
Yes, all in the same area.
And all medium to low, would you say?
Medium velocity.
Medium velocity.
And there is some what they call passive, which is where the blood just kind of drops. Say, just for example, and I'm not saying a bat was used, but if a bat were used and there was blood dripping from the tip of the bat onto the floor, just the drops. That's called passive. There are some passive as well.
Would the blood by the dishwasher, is that passive? Yes.
That's like somebody who was walking, and that's what I told you before. I'm one of the medical examiners or a coroner, deputy coroner I was speaking with. I can't remember which one, but they were saying that more than likely the blood in the kitchen by the dishwasher was probably belongs to the person who did the attacking. They probably were injured in somehow, some way, but they said that is definitely passive, and that's usually where that type of blood comes from.
And, of course, that wasn't tested.
Correct.
Add that to the list.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Pansy, anything else on this one?
No.
No?
Okay, we'll move on to number...
I'm just taking it all in.
Okay.
It's a lot to take in, right?
Yeah.
Can you picture people who are just like learning about this case? Like at some point, I think some people are just like, you know what, this is just too much for me. I just don't want to even get involved.
Yeah.
Well, I'm passive about this.
Well, I'm glad you are.
We definitely need it.
Yep. Okay, number 4, being the quote-unquote bloody footprints, show cleaned up blood when it was sprayed with the luminol-type product. Now, they didn't use luminol. They used another name brand that shows blood that has been cleaned up. When you look at the photos, you don't see that blood, but as soon as they spray it, you see you see the blood on the floor. And it had been cleaned up previously. And the police knew this. When, as soon as the BCA sprayed that floor and it showed up blue,
mm-hmm.
I mean, they know that's like blood spatter 101. Police detective work, 100. That tells them right away that somebody cleaned up that blood prior to the new quote-unquote prints being put down on the floor. But they never even took a second guess at that. They didn't even look twice at it.
Well, that seems odd.
Okay. And number 5, we're going back to the bullet hole in the ceiling. The bullet hole in the living room ceiling was not documented or seen until February 18th. A whole month later.
Yeah, and I got something to say on that one.
Okay.
You think that bullet could have been fired the second day when all those guys were there? Maybe with a silencer or something?
It would have to be with a silencer, I would think, because there's, neighbors would have heard something. They're on the lookout at this point, I think, because they're
right.
spotting people in the house days later.
That's how they knew about the bullet hole.
Right.
How else could they?
They did it.
Yeah, and especially to call the police and say, "Oh, we found a bullet hole you missed."
Right.
How do you know they missed it?
Exactly.
Right.
That was the oddest thing, which is like they're watching the police very closely. Yeah, I didn't understand that, but I think it would have to be I guess my question would be why would you risk that? Why would you risk going into the house and creating this? What would be the goal of that?
Unless they knew they were being protected, you're right. Why would they risk it? If they knew that what they stated would not cause anyone to question them,
Yeah, there's a lot of setup going on there.
Yeah.
I believe.
I mean, that's definitely one thing that would kind of make the police want to close the case as quickly as they could, and kind of gloss over those key factors, those facts. Really what they are.
Now, who was it that stuck their finger in the hole and made it bigger?
That was that was Joe Cooksley from the BCA crime scene team.
That was really stupid.
Yeah, I don't know what that was for. What he was trying to accomplish. If it was just an accident.
No, he knows better. This is what he does for a living. Like, why would he put his finger in the hole?
To see how deep it is. To see where it goes.
Yeah.
Is it really a bullet hole? We don't know.
Is this an illusion?
Okay, and number 6 is no bullet or bullet fragment was found associated with a gunshot wound to David's head. In other words, the bullet that killed David was never found. Not even the one that was...
Go ahead.
Okay, the one that they found supposedly in the attic only had David's DNA. There was no blood, hair, or tissue in that bullet fragment.
Right.
Is it possible that one of the other bullets was one that killed David?
No, because they tested them all, and they either had Kamel's or Ranya's blood and or tissue on them.
Right, but there's several times where David can't be actually ruled out, right? So that kind of leaves the door open, doesn't it?
Well, no, because you're talking about the blood on the bullets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's stay there for a second. Let's look at those.
I am pulling up that report, or getting to that report. Okay,
So it's
so
what, 42, 43.
42 and 43 do not match David or Rania.
Okay, so it can't be that. What about 44?
44 does not match David or Rania.
Okay, what are the other? Well, there's like 6 of them.
Number 53, major profile does not match David or Kamel, but it matches Rania. And then the only other one left is 57 from the attic. It is male DNA, and that is what matches David.
What's 40? 41? No, 41 is not. So
41 is the page from the notepad.
41 is the page. So 42, 43, 44, 45, 53, and 57. And the only one that even has David's DNA on it is 57.
Correct.
So,
and 45 had nothing. They could detect no DNA at all from anyone.
okay, so we're just talking about 42, 43, and 44.
Yeah, 42. Yep, 42, 43, and 44 belong to Kamel, do not match David.
Gotcha.
Number...
What about 53?
53, I think that is, that's the one that is Rania's. Major profile does not match David or Kamel, but it does match Rania. So 53 is Rania's. And 57 is the only one, that's the attic bullet, the mystery one, that only has David's DNA.
The magic bullet.
Yeah, the magic bullet.
One of the magic bullets. So I see what you're saying. There's no bullet here that you can tie to David.
To this day, they do not have the bullet that killed David.
And it's not one of these ones that say, well, it was two or more, but it wasn't him. So, okay.
And we have a guest that wrote, didn't the gun and clip have unknown prints? Yes. On the inside, that when they removed the magazine from David's gun, when they picked it up off the floor and they ejected the magazine, they found David's blood. They tested that blood, and it was David's blood on the magazine, but the latent print in that blood was not David's, and they do not know who it belongs to.
They could not conclusively tie it to David.
Well, I saw no print match at all. Did you see where it was a possibility? I saw no print match.
Yeah, if you look, it's in that same 40-pager. That 40-page document has pretty much everything, not everything, but most of the stuff that you'd want to start with, right? As long as you know what you're looking for. But there is, I believe it's one of the last pages on this too. Yeah, it's actually the very last page. So if you look at the very last page there, you can see the results of those latent prints, and you can also see why. So it's not, the why it was inconclusive to David is also weird to me too.
Okay, so 1B. Okay, this is what it states for latent print 1B. Inconclusive to Crowley due to the limited quality and quantity of information in the latent print. Now, I don't know about you, but that was a pretty darn good latent print. Latent print 41, that's on the, okay. Latent print 1B2 were searched in the Midwest Automated Fingerprint Identification Network, and no suitable candidate was generated. Now, they had David's fingerprint there. They had his print card. So when I'm reading this, one latent fingerprint designated LP1B-2, and they say that it's inconclusive, it didn't match David.
Yeah, and they don't even bother with the item 1A with the palm print on the actual gun, right? It just says no known palm prints for David Crowley were submitted or found in the BCA files for comparison to LP1A, which is the gun.
Yes.
Well, I mean, who has a palm print? Who takes a palm print? But how would you, what would you need to tie that palm print to David or to anybody? And if you can't tie it to David, why would you think that David had his hand on the gun? Because of the blood?
Well,
let's look at the blood found on that
and
gun.
that's the thing, how did David's blood get on the magazine inside the gun? That is not something that could happen if he shot himself. It wouldn't drop on that magazine like that and then have a print stuck in that blood. He was injured prior to whoever loaded that magazine into that gun. They were somehow dripping his blood.
Yeah, I mean, that's really all it is his blood is on the trigger. His blood is on the magazine. So by their logic, that's their tie to David on this gun.
Yeah.
Right.
Blood where it shouldn't have been by someone who supposedly killed them all. That makes no sense.
Yeah, and I thought it was weird that on the trigger of the gun that they said that that Rania could not be excluded from a possible contributor to that gun, to the blood on the gun. Let's say that. But
which means they had to have shot her at relatively close range for the blowback.
Yeah, and this would also, yeah.
No, again, so that means that they maybe use some type of, again, which we've all thought, was there a silencer, or was a pillow or something used, but when she was shot, she was close enough for her blood to blow back onto that gun, or a possibility that it blew back onto the gun.
Okay, I can see that. But here you have on the magazine, item 1B-1, the magazine has a mixture of 2 or more people with David's major DNA profile, but Kamel and Rania, again, could not be excluded from that, which, again, I thought was kind of weird. And they go out of their way to say that if David had the major DNA profile, if it matched him, then there's no way that there's a very less likely chance that it's going to match anybody else within his family. The way that they phrase it is really weird too. I found that confused me.
Yeah. And so when it says mixture of 2 or more individuals, when they're talking about major and minor profiles, we know they were looking for someone else. But to have it say that the major DNA profile, which is the blood on the trigger,
which is a male DNA profile. It's a major male DNA.
Major male DNA profile matches David, and the major profile does not match Kamel or Rania, and a major profile would not be expected to occur more than once among unrelated individuals in the world population.
Right.
So Rania cannot be excluded from being a possible contributor, and Kamel is excluded.
Not on the magazine.
Right. No, I'm talking about the trigger.
You're talking about the trigger. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
But what this is saying is that the blood, the people who contributed to that blood are related to David. So when it says the major profile would not be expected to occur more than once among unrelated individuals. So they would expect to see it among related individuals.
But how many? But it's a major DNA. So if it's a major DNA profile, then the second DNA profile wouldn't be a major DNA profile, right? So there's only going to be one major DNA profile that's going to match his blood, right?
Well, no.
That's why they call it major.
Well, you can have, yes, there are major. You can have 2 or 3 people who are still bleeding, and then they'll all contribute. But what they're saying is that this blood that they're finding belongs to someone related to David. They would not expect to find it in anyone unrelated to David.
But that's only talking about the major DNA profile. It's not talking about just a DNA profile in general.
Well, it says it is estimated that 99.9996% of the general population can be excluded from being contributors.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, based on less genetic information obtained from the known sample of Rania, it is estimated 99.5% of the general population cannot be excluded, or can be excluded, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, yeah, I mean, that's it, because this is the weird thing, because this is where the major DNA, where it kind of threw me off, because I was like, I was expecting, if they're going to mention major DNA on one of these things, I was expecting them to mention major DNA on everything, and that's not the case here.
Correct.
Why is that? Why maybe that's what's throwing me off here. Well, one of the things that's throwing me off. Let's put it like that.
Well, and I look at it as, they're writing it a certain way, but why are they writing it a certain way? So to me, it's like if they're going major, minor, I think I saw minor DNA on one of them, or maybe it's just all major. But if it's talking about mixture of two or more individuals, and then they bring up major profiles, then that tells me they're looking for someone else as well, but they didn't find that someone else.
Because they mention major DNA? I didn't think of that. That's interesting. I guess, yeah, just because, well, then I would think, well, that should be single source, or if there's two or more, if there's a mixture of two or more, by that logic, shouldn't they always mention major DNA, or could that be because the blood DNA is so small, like a couple drops, like on item 8, on the actual knife, they literally say it's like one drop, and it's not even in the blade, it's like in the hole of the blade, and that was tied to two or more people, and they don't know who that is. I don't know.
Right, and then when you look down at the next one on items 11 and 44-1, which is blood from the west living room wall and the bullet, it says single source DNA. So they're very descriptive as to when it's one person who is a contributor versus two and or possibly more contributors to that blood, mixture of two or more. So when they say mixture of two or more, I know some have said in the past that we're not understanding it right, and that's just standard lingo. But I don't believe that, because if they are going to single out and say single source DNA and then mixture of two or more individuals, I think they're looking at two or more individuals.
Yeah, I mean two or more, not one or more. Two
Correct.
or more.
Yes, yes.
Could be looking at multiple people, sure. Anything else on that one?
Not for me.
Somebody asked, anybody know if he kept the safe closed at all times? I wonder if it was only opened after hearing commotion. And then someone else wrote back, I think he would have kept it closed since there was a child in the house.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it was a locking one. In fact, it wasn't even his prints or blood found on the gun safe. It was Kamel's, correct? Buttons on the safe, which was Kamel's blood, does not match David. Okay. Okay, and number 7, I'm going to jump now to number 7. The fruit, the kiwi on the counter still looked fresh. Now, we've gone back and forth on this one because I don't know much about kiwi. I don't know what rotten kiwi looks like, but it definitely doesn't look like it's been sitting on a counter for over a month. And that's just me. No, other people might not agree with that. Does anyone else have anything to add to that? Okay. On to number 8. The back door was ajar, which the police didn't seem to find a problem with that whatsoever.
Sorry, can you read that one? Read that one.
The back door was ajar.
And they didn't find any prints on that door.
Uh-uh.
Did they even test it?
You know, that's a good question.
Yeah, you just read my mind. Like, yeah, did they even test it? Would they test it? It seems like they only tested where there was blood, right?
You know what? Yeah, and I don't recall seeing any fingerprint dust on any of the windows or the doors or anything. Do you have any photos that show that was tested?
No. Mm-mm.
Well, you know, they had to use that back door and that handle. They had to have prints on that handle.
Right.
I didn't see anything in the paperwork about them doing prints on waiters or even testing.
Which is really weird.
That is weird. Yeah.
It's like a lot of things they didn't want to find.
Right. Okay, and now number 9 is back neighbor noticed back door open during the time frame but doesn't remember when. And this was during one of their, I can't remember who the neighbor was that the police interviewed, but they said they did notice that the back door was open, but they couldn't remember what day it was.
I think that was Teresa Shepard, and I think she actually says that it was when she got home on December 23rd.
Okay.
So I'm pulling in my book right now, so hopefully I can have that a little.
Okay, while you're looking that up, Angela, you want to know how far open, a little bit or more than in the pics? All we know is that they said it was ajar. I think they said quarter of an inch, right?
Yes, yeah, 1/4 inch. Yeah.
Okay.
Which again is not. No, it is in the police reports. That was the biggest one, I think. Somebody posted that into the group. I want to thank whoever did that. They grabbed the audio of the cops going through the house. It's about 5 minutes long. You could tell that it's kind of clipped, so that I don't know if there's everything or if there's more or whatever. But that audio, everybody needs to listen to that audio. I think that audio is very important for many reasons. You can hear the family dog barking there. You can hear a lot of different things. So.
Yeah, and the thing with that is that we don't know if it was cut off because they move awfully quick, like within a second or two from upstairs cleared, now we're in downstairs. And it's like, really? You can't walk that fast. It was 2 seconds. So I don't know. Angela, when they were talking about seeing the door, they actually saw it open, not just ajar.
Well, and they also said that, you're talking about on January 7th when the bodies were found.
No, I'm answering. They're asking more questions on the chat.
Okay.
So how did the neighbors see it from that far away? And I think it's because she actually saw it open. She's not saying she necessarily saw it the 1/4 inch ajar.
No, she saw the back door open. Now she wasn't sure if it was the patio sliding door or if it was the actual door. So if it was the screen door or if it was the actual back door, she wasn't sure about that.
Okay.
I'm just pulling that up now. I think that was Teresa Shepard, though, if I remember correctly. Yeah, the neighbors, what the neighbors heard and what the neighbors saw leading up to that is very crucial because nobody seems to have seen them after Christmas, even right before Christmas, what it sounds like.
Yeah. So are you looking up something, Greg, you want to add to it?
No, I think that I was just looking up the thing about the neighbor in the back, but I know we've covered the main points that I was going to bring up anyway. So. Okay,
so then we'll go back. Now we'll head to number 10, and it was knife tested positive for blood of all 3, yet it was not visible, appears to have been washed, and no prints on the knife.
Why do you say appears to have been washed? I haven't heard that one.
That's my opinion because you don't see blood on it. And they had to swab it to find the blood. And they found it in that little hole where they do the drawing of where the blood is. That is my opinion. Yeah, that's just my opinion, my observation. There's nothing in any of the reports that state that is a fact. I would just, with where the knife was located and the fact that it had all three of their blood in one little tiny section, like what it said in the hole of where, when they opened the blade, and it was in the hole of the blade. Now, if it's there, it should have been over on more than just that spot.
Yeah, that made me think about that there was some possible signs of a struggle because the knife was open. It wasn't like the knife was closed or anything like that. And they're very careful not to really talk too much about that knife.
Yeah,
but the knife was
really ignore it.
Yeah. And they're very, I mean, how many times have they mentioned there were no signs of a struggle, no signs of anything like that? And an open knife, to me, would think that there would be possible signs of a struggle.
Yeah, I mean,
that would be the first thing I would think.
Right? I mean, that right there tells me someone was trying to defend themselves or someone was using it as a weapon. Mm-hmm. Hence, there's a struggle.
Let's see. Yeah, the knife was closest to David's left leg.
Mm-hmm.
The blood on the knife came from a mixture of two or more individuals, and David, Kamel, and Rania cannot be excluded. The knife, yeah, I think that was because where the knife was found kind of really threw me off first, too, because I had expected it to be closer to Kamel. And it wasn't. If it's closer to David's left leg, and it's on the other side, then it's completely there. So it's like, well, how did the knife get there? You have the knife and the gun, next to David's left side, next to his left leg, and next to his left hand. And I don't know.
And here's the thing. This is number 11. To go with number 10 is that there is no apparent blood in the area around the knife. There's stuffing, there's hair, there are fibers, but no blood. So where did the blood come from that was in the hole on the blade? Was that you, Sophia? Did you want to say something?
Well, I always thought the knife was just odd because you don't really see any knife injuries on the victims, or at least it's not mentioned. They only really mention the gunshots and the conditions that the bodies were found in. So why was the knife on the ground? Why was it open?
Yep.
I mean, that's the biggest mystery. Well, not the biggest, but for me, it really does add a lot of questions. Because you would think if he didn't have the gun or access to the gun, what would be his next best resort? Whatever was on him?
Right.
Sorry, I'm kind of trying to get the laundry started.
There is a second knife too. In his master bedroom, there is a second knife that's found under the gun safe. Yeah. So that was another thing too. It's like whose knife is whose. That's why I first thought that it had to have been Kamel's knife. Even though it's a camel knife, it makes more sense for it to be David's, but yeah, I thought that was kind of weird.
Yeah. And Angela in Wyoming is asking, once deceased, and this is off topic, but that's okay. It says, once deceased, does hair fall off the scalp naturally? The amount of hair on the floor seems unusual to me. The answer to that is yes, it does, but it doesn't normally fall out of a head until gets toward the skeletonization aspect of decomposition. But since their heads had sustained so much damage and the brains were missing, the hair would fall out sooner because the scalp is going to decompose faster. The scalp tissue is going to decompose faster. But yes, there is so much, but a lot of what's on the floor, I thought it was all hair. It turns out that there's some black fiber as well on the floor. Now, did that come from a chair cushion or what?
Well, there was a stuffed animal, like a lemur type animal that was black and white.
And did that have the black stuffing?
I think it was white stuffing. It had like white cotton stuffing.
Yeah, something had black stuffing in it because you can clearly see black stuffing on the floor as well as the hair.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see that.
I just don't have an answer for that one.
Because I know there's a little black piece of, like, it looks like maybe Velcro outside of the slider on that patio.
Right,
there was a little black piece there too, and I wonder what the heck was that? How'd that get there?
Could that have been tracked by the officers when they took Paleo out of the house?
It could have been. It'd be important to see if that's there in the photos before they take him out. And most of the photos that we have of that, I think, are before they take the dog out.
Yeah, I think so. I think we need to go back and look.
Yeah, because there's several photos that you can clearly see that dog, which is good. You can get a good feel of what type of shape that dog was in.
Yeah, and I think he was pretty traumatized, and he may have pulled out a lot of that hair.
That's possible.
Trying to get a reaction.
Trying to wake him up, trying to move him, trying to help him.
Right.
You know. Yeah, I can see that. Let's see.
I'm pretty sure that little dog was frantic a lot of the time.
Oh, I bet.
So there was a little blood found on the blade of the knife. If looking at that image there. But I know it wasn't tested. I don't think it was tested. So it's item A1, item 8-1 through item 8-4. It says, yeah, maybe that's weird. It looks weird, but it's not really mentioned.
Yeah, they really skip over the knife altogether quite a bit.
Yeah.
They don't test it. They don't really do anything with it.
Item 8-1 is a blood swab inside the hole of the blade. Item 8-2 is a swab of blood found on the folding side of the blade. Item 8-3 is the handle of the knife, where blood is not present. And item 8-4 is a hair sample found on the handle. But if you're looking at the photo, you can clearly see on the photo that there's something, they like kind of marked in something there, which made me think that it was like a blood stain or something, but that's not what's there.
Which photo are you talking about?
The photo of the knife. Not the photo, but the drawing. There's a drawing that they do.
Yeah, that's
of
what I'm
that
trying
knife.
to find, is that drawing again.
That's in the 488, the big 488-page document.
Oh, okay. I think I printed that one off, though. Yeah, and so that's that. Okay. So, should we move on?
Yeah. Anything else with the knife, anyone?
Let's see. Okay. And now we're going to go on to number 12, where the writing on the wall doesn't match David's handwriting. And that's something I was doing. I was looking at the, there are numerous places where you see a sample of David's printing and or writing, and his A's and his B's and his K's are nothing like what is written on the wall. I mean, they're different like night and day.
And Catherine, if you look at the really large file that Greg and I got from the BCA back in, I think, August or September, there's lots of samples of David and Camille's handwriting, just as an FYI for comparison.
Yeah, and they don't even match.
Okay, so you've already checked.
Yeah, I did look at some of those. Yes, they were taking some samples also. I can't remember where they were taking the samples from David and Camille, and I was looking at that and comparing that with the wall, and I'm like, okay, these are nowhere near as close. I mean, they're not close at all. Okay, and then anybody want to say anything else about the handwriting on the wall?
Yeah, I would say, isn't it hard to how do you compare handwriting on the wall to handwriting on a piece of paper or anything like that?
Well, people's handwriting, you're going to print in the same general way. It's not, you're not really truly going to alter like David's A's are fluid in one motion, and they go up, down, and then kind of up in an upward slant, and then they're slanted. The A on the wall is done in like, what, 2 or 3 separate moves? I'm trying to find the writing on the wall again.
Yeah, up or down, and then down, and then across. Yeah, that was 3 moves.
Yeah, and on the first A, on the Allahu, it slants to the left. David's A's slant clear to the right. And he doesn't make a straight line across on his A's. He goes up and then down, and then it's continued line from the downward motion to make that line to cross over his A's. And these A's on the wall are all done in 3 separate moves.
What about...
Well, in the slant of the A, the first A, that would have to have been a right-handed person or left-handed person.
Yeah, it looks like a left-handed person to me, too.
Yeah.
And I had the same impression.
Because of where they...
Because how the A is slanted.
Yes, the slant of the letters.
They couldn't do that with the right hand?
Most right-handed people don't write like that. That's a left-handed person's signature type, a signature in the sense that it's a clue as to it's a left-handed person.
Hmm.
And we know David was right-handed.
Mm-hmm.
So where did they get all that blood at?
That's Kamel's blood, yeah.
Yeah, but where did it come from?
They don't say.
Yeah. There would have had to have been a humongous amount of blood for that much blood to have been smeared on the wall.
Yeah.
And it's all Kamel's blood, so I mean the only part that's really missing is her head, well, her hands, I guess, too. Maybe the bloody hands.
They had to have used her body somehow or other to have bled it out into something.
Yeah, because there's definitely not a pool of her blood that they could have, that there shows any type of dipping fingers into and writing on the wall. They had to have collected it into something.
And yet they didn't find anything like that, or it didn't show anything like that.
Nope. Oh.
It's just all a big setup.
I know.
And this has run through my mind. I was wondering. None of the family ever saw the bodies, did they?
The sister claims to have seen Kamel.
And she recognized her.
And I'm not sure.
I'm wondering if this was set up to look like them, but it really wasn't them. And if nobody saw any of their tattoos, and family-wise or anything, and you can only go by what they're telling you in these notes. And
she raises a very good point.
It all sounds ridiculous.
It does. To me,
maybe they're still alive somewhere.
Could be. I mean, you can't rule it out, right? Or I can't rule it out.
Yeah, right now we can't rule anything out, I don't think, other than the fact that I know David didn't kill these bodies in the house, if that's David on the floor.
That's right. And go along with that. But that sticks in my mind.
Yeah.
That this was all, it's all too stupid to sound real.
Yeah.
It's a big movie, and we're all living in it.
We're in the
I don't want
Matrix.
my nightmares.
It's the one movie I want out.
It's just too unreal.
Yeah.
Wait, what would be the motive for that?
Cover up for something else. Well, maybe they're hiding. Maybe they're in what do you call it?
Witness protection?
Yeah, maybe they were in danger. I mean, the family thinking like they do, and the friends, reacting like they do. There's something weird going on there. Maybe they know more than what anybody else knows.
But they would have had to made a deal, right? They would have had to made a deal or something.
It made look like they were murdered, when actually maybe they weren't. Maybe these were bodies that came from a morgue or something.
Why not just make it look like they, drove over a cliff or something? Or, I mean, this is taking it to the. This is pretty
I don't think
extreme.
Well, because they're wanting people to forget it.
I don't think whoever did this was expecting us to
No.
go over it quite so closely.
Right. Right.
Well, they must have been smoking then.
Somebody must have been.
Somebody must have.
It's just all too ridiculous to be true. I mean, there's just. The more I think about it, it seems like it's all just fanned out like a scenery that they didn't think that anybody was going to go investigating it.
Yeah, it scares me to think that this is how a lot of investigations are done. If most of them are done like this, I don't think anybody's in jail that needs to be.
Right.
Maybe they really are all innocent.
Could be.
Well, faking your death is also a crime too.
Yeah, unless somebody else is in on it that.
Actually, it's only a crime if you try to collect on life insurance. Other than that, if you don't, it's not a crime.
Faking your own death is not a crime? That's ridiculous.
Nope, it's not.
It should be a high crime.
It should be. I agree. But only if they try to collect money or insurance policies or anything like that, that is when it becomes a crime.
There's another story. Did they have any insurance?
The house went into foreclosure. If they had insurance,
it might be in the financial documents.
I'm talking about life insurance.
Life insurance, yeah.
Yeah.
He had something through USAA, whether it was automobile and home, but I am not 100% certain on life insurance. Now, he did have the option to continue to pay for life insurance once he got out of the military, but that's up to him whether or not he continued to make those payments.
So they actually let that house go into foreclosure?
Yes.
Everyone wants to try to grab a hold of the script, but they let that, instead of selling the house, they let it go into foreclosure.
Mhm.
Wow.
Remember the paperwork that we were looking at, and it said Dakota County Sheriff or Deputy Sheriff's Office on it?
Yeah.
That's what it was meaning.
Whoa.
Really?
Yeah.
That's low. Okay, that's my opinion. And anybody, if you want to get mad, you can send me a nastygram. Don't get on Sophia or Greg. I'm saying that was low. Wow. I'm shaking my head. Holy cow.
Oh, yeah. This whole case has us shaking our heads in it. Yep.
What did you say, Sophia?
This whole case has me shaking my head.
Right? Oh.
Yeah, it's considering the amount of money that the family had. I mean, I why not just sell the house?
And he
Why
was
did it go into
expecting all this
foreclosure?
He was expecting all this money too to come in, and so why go that far?
Yeah.
When someone could have helped him to hold on to the house, but he wasn't wanting any help, I think.
Wow.
And it wasn't like David or Kamal were hurting for money. David had funds that he could have, it could have been available to him. And Kamal supposedly had money, although we are not able to see her accounts with the records that we have from Apple Valley. So I don't have any information in regards to that.
Right, but they definitely were not hurting. Looking at their spending and their lines of credit, they were not hurting for money, which is another rumor that has been spread by somebody, and I really think that needs to be put to rest. Their money situation was just fine.
But why foreclosure on the house?
That's a very good question.
Now that's
why would they let it go? I don't understand that one.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to jump ahead to number 21 on the list, where it says, because a lot of this other stuff is things we've already covered tonight. And 21 is, the medical examiner did not rehydrate David's left hand or feet to compare to other evidence in the house. Now, they're trying to say that David made the quote-unquote bloody footprints, a.k.a. kindergarten artwork, on the floor, and there's a latent print in his blood on a magazine, but they did not rehydrate his hand or feet to compare that to. And that, to me, was the medical examiner was slacking in her duty when she didn't do that.
What do you guys know about her?
Well, not a lot, other than she left not too long after Kate died, and she's now working in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee. I have tried to reach out to her, but she has not answered any attempts.
Is it true she's 36?
Yes, when she was working in Apple Valley, she was, I think, just a few years out of medical school.
That's really young. I didn't realize that until recently. Somebody pointed that out, and I was like, that's really young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she could have easily been manipulated, or they could have told her stuff she didn't know because it was probably her really first big case. But since she's not talking, we don't know.
She published a manual on forensic practices dated January 2018. Have you guys seen this?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I've read it, but yes.
Oh, I'd like to read that to see how extensive it is.
I hope she went back to school and learned some more.
Yeah.
She did a sloppy job, yeah.
Yeah.
Because that brings us on to number 22, where David's feet were not tested for blood. Again, they're trying to say he made those so-called bloody footprints, and now they don't even test and swab his feet for blood.
Well, you and I talked about that one time, about the footprints, and we don't believe they're footprints.
Oh no, yeah, no one can convince
but
you they are.
Probably wasn't any blood on his feet.
Right. I mean, right? So this way, I mean, they have plausible deniability. Oops, we didn't test. Yes, there was blood, but we can't prove it. Well, we're telling you there wasn't blood.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow. Okay, and number 23 is when the police left the scene, they had 6 casings, 1 unspent cartridge, 3 fragments. Without having knowledge of whose blood, tissue, or brain matter was on the evidence, it was determined to be a murder-suicide. Once tested, the evidence retrieved that night showed the blood belonged to Kamel. The police chief called it a murder-suicide without the bullet that killed David.
Right.
It's true. Now, I think it was 4 fragments, right? Because they left the house with 4 bullets.
And the reports I read was 3. They didn't find the 4th one until it was rolled out of the carpet the next day, right?
Right.
Well, they found 3, right? So they found item 42, 43, 44.
Which were Kamel's.
Okay, and the 45 is the one that was shot into the basement. So they have 4 there.
Okay, you are correct. Let me change this. I probably meant to say 3 fragments with blood on it, but I'll put 4.
On it. Yeah.
Okay, but you're correct because the one in the wall had nobody's DNA. They had 3 fragments that had blood on it, and they all belonged to Kamel. They didn't find Ranya's until the next day. They left with 6 casings and 1 unspent cartridge, and they still called it a murder-suicide without knowing which bullets killed who.
I think that's also weird. What you bring up there too is they found Kamel's blood on 3 bullets, which to me was kind of weird too. It was like, oh, how do you do that? Looking at where these bullets are found, maybe.
Well, they tested the blood on the fragments, and it was tested to be Kamel's.
Right. But could that just be because of where these bullets were found?
I don't think so, because looking at least 2 of those fragments, and I can't remember the 3rd one, but I know 2 for sure show hair entwined in them. So if there's hair in there, there's got to be brain tissue or something else in there as well.
Mm. Yeah, because 42 and 43 are kind of closer to David. And, on one side of Kamel, and then 44 is on the other side of Kamel. 44 looks like it's almost underneath Kamel. It's kind of odd.
Yeah, so how could she have been shot in the head and then have the fragment be underneath her? I'm not trying to figure out their
blanket.
I'm sorry, what?
Like bone fragments. It's kind of like the blue blanket where there's bone fragments underneath the blanket or the edge of it.
Right. Oh, but it's paleo. You forgot he's magical.
Yes, exactly. I forgot our conversation last week.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm snarky, but.
Was there just 1 blue blanket, or were there 2?
There was 1 blue blanket, which was under Kamel on top of David, same blanket. Mm-hmm. But then there was another blanket that was rolled up and put in the position of where Kamel's head was. But yet they say the dog ate her head, so I guess he rolled up the blanket too and then stuffed it there after he ate it. He didn't want anybody to know. He was being a bad doggy. And yes, I'm being snarky.
You are. You're vicious today.
I know. I have no sympathy for these people sometimes, right? I'm horrible. But when I read that in the new report that you got, Greg, or you and Sophia, where they said that they found a blanket rolled up in the position of Kamel's head, and that's why they didn't know her head was missing at first. Because, they first came in and it was dark, and yes, they have to go through everything, as is, with no lights on. And it's like, wow. And they still believe the dog ate her head. How? If there's a blanket in the way, how does the dog get to the larynx?
Yeah, I was thinking the blanket was a little bit above her head, because if you look at where David's foot is in that photo, which to me I always thought was a hand. It looked like a hand at first, but that's got to be his feet.
Yeah, it's his feet.
But that should be about a little south of that foot. Should be where Kamel's, whatever was left of Kamel's head was. I don't think it was under the blanket. I think that they would have mentioned that if it was under the blanket.
No,
right?
It wasn't under, but the blanket was rolled up in the position where her head was, so that's why they said they didn't know her head was missing at first. I'll have to read that in that report, and I'll send it to you again.
Yeah, that'd be good. I'd like to read that.
Yeah, that's one I missed.
Yeah, that was in the new reports that Greg and Sophia obtained just recently. There was some new information in there.
Oh.
Greg, do you have it on your website?
Yeah, it's all up on there.
Okay.
It's in the David Crowley research document.
What did you need, Brooke?
If you're searching for it on the website under the gray stage stuff, it should be. I'm trying to see what the actual name of it. You could just Google the name. It should pop up. BCA data request files full. So if you search for my name and you put that in, it should come up. Or if not, I can send it to you. Okay. Well, yeah, I'm curious more about that blanket too. I'd like to hear more about that one. Because of where
Greg,
they say
I'll send
David's
you the photo.
Okay.
Of what I was referring to, so you can add it to the video.
Okay, I will find that and I will send that to you. Okay, so, and on one of the police officers' handwritten notes, and I'm not sure whose this is, but as they're writing what they saw, they write male, and in parentheses, no head, a female, and a school-aged child. So they didn't even note that Kamel's head was missing, but they did note David's head was missing.
They didn't say about David's head or about Kamel's head?
Not on this. This was not in this report. Not in this handwritten report.
Who's that? Who's that one by?
I don't know. There's an asterisk by the name of S.A. Olson, so I don't know if this is Olson's report or not.
It's Special Agent Olson, Chris Olson, I think. But he was in there later.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm not sure whose handwritten notes belong to whom.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't make that easy.
Yeah. Yeah, so anyway, is there anything else anyone else wants to talk about? You got something you want to say?
Any other peeps?
Not at the moment.
What else do I have here?
I'll have to go in and digest all of what I've just heard. So.
Too much for you?
No, give me something to do.
Yeah, I'm trying to go through, and a lot of this stuff is stuff we've already talked about on the inconsistencies.
looking at the first responders for what they say about the bodies. Let's see, it's Greg Dahlstrom, Sergeant. He's now a captain. Captain Greg Dahlstrom, by the way. It's interesting too.
I think they all got a promotion after all of that.
Yeah, they all kind of moved up for sure.
Yeah.
Or they left.
One or the other.
I'm just looking at it. Let's see, where are we at here?
Oh, and this is what kills me, because I did highlight this on a lot of them, and I'm going to be jumping ahead here while you're looking through that, how everyone states dog poop all over the place. Piles of dog feces everywhere on both levels of the residence. Dog feces everywhere. And I looked through all of the photos, and all of the photos which give us almost the entire floor plan and almost every part of the floor, and I counted each individual dog dropping. There were only 29. Now, that to me is not dog poop everywhere.
29, that seems really low.
Yes, I know. That's what I said.
I'm like, well, I don't know. My dog only poops once a day.
I have a little tiny 5-pounder, and he can poop sometimes up to 4 and 5 times a day. Sometimes he'll only do one little one, and other times he does 4 and 5.
Yeah, you don't ever know.
Yeah.
Where is this? I'm trying to find exactly what they say about the bodies, just inside. Yeah, they're more focused on the blood wall.
In that video, did it show the bodies?
I don't think it. I don't think it did. Are there any videos of the bodies at all? I don't think so.
I mean, they have them. They have videos.
But they haven't showed them to anybody, correct?
No.
Okay.
Not that I know of, anyway. This is so weird. This is frustrating.
It's all frustrating.
It really is. What the hell? Where are we here? Just in the
it's not like there's just one thing. It's not like there's just one thing that we got to unscramble. It's the whole thing.
Right.
So, Detective Brian Bone, I noted 2 of the bodies were missing their heads. It appeared that the 2 adult-sized bodies did not appear to have heads or skulls attached to them. So that's why I thought they could see where their heads would be. They should be able to see it all.
I will, yes, like I said, I will find that. I'm looking, but I'm not finding it at the moment. I did read it, and I will find it again and send it to you. And it was in the new information. At least I'm almost positive it was in the new information.
Yeah, that's interesting. That would make sense. And I'm trying to see if I have any quotes from Olson. Maybe from Cooksley. There's a few from Cooksley I have here. Cooksley, only the back portion of his skull remained attached to his spine. He was barefoot. He's the one. Cooksley is the one who mentions the blue blanket a little bit over David's foot. What else does he say here? The adult female body. Go ahead.
In order of their death, it looks like David was laid down first. Blanket on top of him.
But Camille is lying on the blue blanket, and the blue blanket is over David.
Right. she had to have been laid down second. And then Rania on top of her.
And she was between Camel's legs,
Well,
lying on her left side.
One place it said that she was laying over her left leg.
Right, that's what they show. But when you look at the initial drawings and you look at the first picture, she's lying on her left side between her mother's legs.
Oh. The picture I got shows her over her mother's leg.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Like
And that's the thing. That's why I'm like, when they moved her, somebody moved her before they took that photo.
Yeah. There was a lot of things disturbed, out of place.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Detective Booth. Tommy Booth said the head of the female body could not be seen on the initial view. Also, the female did not have either hand. But see, remember, the hand is over her head.
Yes, her
So
right arm is
thing.
over her head and her left hand is under her body.
I don't know if it's under her body.
According to the drawings, it is under her body.
Not according to what they're saying here. And really, the hand it's like, yeah, I know what you're talking about, like a part of the hand, like where her hand should be, but she didn't have any hands. But where the hand should have been, if she had a hand, it probably would be under her body.
Right.
That's what it looks like. Detective Bone also at first said that Camille was missing one hand. I noted that here.
Yeah, because
too.
they couldn't see it initially. They couldn't see the left one initially.
Mm. Oh, right. Perhaps she was not in a position to see both hands.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Joe Cooksley's description, Camille was found with her left arm under her body, extended towards the right,
Mm-hmm.
and her right arm extended over her left. So it was under the body. So her left arm was under the body. Okay.
Yeah.
Cooksley also noted neither hand was visible.
And that was one of the things that I brought up to Gummert. I'm like, okay, how is it that you can say that the dog ate her hand when your reports clearly state her hand was under her body and there is no movement of her body by the dog? Where did her hand go? It had to have been missing prior to body placement. And he just wouldn't answer anything.
This also says that Camille was found lying on top of a blue blanket.
Yes, the blue blanket
Right.
that covers David.
And an early note states that there were blankets above head area of Camille.
Did you just read that?
I wrote this. I just decided to just pull up my book, but it's from the BCA, the final exam. BCA CST final exam, page 5 of 11. So I'll have to see where that is in the bigger documents. It's probably a different page.
I know.
Greg,
Yeah.
there is a children's blanket that is over Camille's head. It's like a white and pink one. If I have the colors correct from the photo.
Oh, I see. I don't know, a white and pink one, huh?
Well,
This
thinking
one's,
off the top of my head, it looks kind of whitish and.
yeah, I know which one
beige,
you're
maybe.
talking about. Yeah, I think that one later on, that one shows up on that couch.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, and it says blankets above head area, multiple blankets. Yeah, I think all the blankets that are up on that couch are probably where this is, I guess. This also says about, with Rania, the bullet was behind her right ear. Okay.
Yeah, that was the entrance wound, correct?
Yeah. The bullet hole was behind the right ear. Okay. And that was the decomposition, I think, was another big question too, because these detectives keep saying a later state. The bodies were in a later state of decay, or they were obviously 3 heavily decomposition bodies or something like that.
But they weren't, and that's the thing. I mean, they should never have stated that because they're clearly still identifiable, and their bodies had just begun the bloating stage. That is not advanced decomp. That's like second stage, starting the third stage out of the 4 or 5 stages that they have. I mean, later decomp is when they start to lose all flesh, and it's just gone.
I read some things in the autopsies in regards to the skeleton, please help me with this word, skeletonation of the bodies.
Mm-hmm.
I can't pronounce it correctly, I'm sorry.
Skeletization?
But, yes. I think I read it in both David and Camille's autopsies. And they were referring to the bones like around the neck area. I believe the hands for Camille and possibly the feet for David. Not 100%.
Well, his feet were mummified.
Mhm.
And so were his hands. So, and again, that's just due to the fact that it's such, thin skin in there and there's not a lot of fat. Well, I couldn't hear you. So what were you trying to say?
Greg, can you help me out with that word again, please?
Skeletonization?
Yeah.
Yes, there you go. Thank you.
Okay, because I didn't read anything about skeletonization in the autopsy reports. And you said you found that somewhere?
Yes. Oh, it was in the large BCA file when they're talking about the description of the bodies.
Yeah, because when I'm right here, as I'm looking at their autopsies right here, I mean, the medical examiner is able to, they say the chest is symmetric, the abdomen is flat, the genitals are those of a normal adult male. So there's no skeletonization going on, so I don't know why they would say that.
I'm not exactly sure, but I can get the screenshots of it for you.
Yeah.
It was handwritten notes.
Yeah.
And it's in the large file.
They're able, the back, buttocks, and anus are unremarkable. The left hand is initially sealed. The right hand is absent. The distal right forearm shows intact smooth ends of the radius and ulna. So the skeletonization aspect is when the skin actually is gone from the body, and what is really showing through is a lot of bone. And that is clearly not what is happening and had happened by the time these autopsies were done. They have internal organs which are intact. They're able to cut them and dissect.
Now, I do have a question in regards to the autopsies.
What's
for both David and Rainey, I believe for David it was his liver that had mold on it, spots of mold. And Rainey also had the same thing, but Camille didn't, for internal organs.
Okay, so the smooth capsule with postmortem mold growth, and that's normal.
Okay.
So what does that mean?
It's just part of the decomp process.
It just gets moldy. Not sure why.
So it's just the capsule is the membrane that covers the liver.
Mm-hmm.
And so yes, and on Ranya's it says with postmortem mold-like growth. But that's the same thing. But you said, let me look up Camille's, because that would be interesting that they wouldn't note that on Camille's. Why not Camille's?
And that raised some flags with me because it was mentioned for David, it was mentioned for Rainey, but Camille didn't have that.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. The hepatobiliary system, the 445-gram liver has an intact capsule. The parenchyma is soft and has a green discoloration. The gallbladder contains trace amounts of bile. The biliary tree appears intact. So yes, you're right. So hers had not reached that point, or at least it hadn't started to quote-unquote mold. I don't know if that's normal or not, to be honest with you.
It just struck me as odd That's
Yeah.
all.
Yeah. I'm going to see who did whose reports. Okay. All three had to sign off on Ranya's. Oh, okay. Well, Dr. Lilinski did both David's and Ranya's, and Dr. Mori did Kamel's. So maybe that's why. Just a difference in writing technique, or what they noted, or how they write.
Okay.
I'm guessing. I have no idea.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, it does. This one is more detailed than the other.
Yes, I agree.
How David's left hand was found is pretty odd too, right?
Yes. I have never seen a hand in that position. And I even went through a whole bunch of autopsy photos and then photos of dead people all over the internet, just trying to find someone with a left hand, and like a hand, period, in that position, and I couldn't find one.
That was odd. That's still really very odd to me.
Yeah, most time hands don't make the OK or the 666 sign. That just doesn't happen.
Yeah, pretty much. Let's see.
Okay, I must have the new your new report saved on the other laptop. So when I find that, Greg and Sophia, I will send that to you.
Okay, thank you. I just found the handwritten notes for the off of the large report, and I'm taking screenshots of it for you right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in those handwritten notes. A lot of stuff that isn't really mentioned later on. So
yeah, it doesn't make it to their typewritten report.
Yeah, didn't make the final cut, pretty much. It's just too bad.
Okay, and basically everything left on the inconsistency list is everything we've been talking about.
Oh.
So there's really nothing else.
Okay. Well, I know one of the things was, if we could, what's the thought process on creating some type of a list and sending it to possibly Kamel's family, Kamel's side of the family. Is there any value in that? At this point, do they just not even want to be bothered with it anymore? I don't know. I've been praying about that, what the best course is.
Yeah, I have not. Of course, I don't really see much of anyone's response, but I don't see any communication from any of the family members at all, not from either side, which I still find really odd.
Like I said, I think they know more than they're letting know.
Any idea what that could be? Just your opinion? What do you think that is?
I think they know what's going on, and they don't want to let it out.
So, and what I struggle with lately is because everything we've been finding, especially with those phone records and other documents that we've been going through, it's like, should we let it out what we know? It's like, are we going to get somebody hurt? I don't want to be hurt.
I made that comment today on a post that maybe we're delving into something we shouldn't be.
And I'm beginning to wonder, and the only thing is I hate the fact that, Sean Wright, who has been, he was just so nasty and so rude to me, and he so desperately wants us all to stop looking into this, and because of that, I don't want to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's what I'm talking about. I think they know more than what they're letting on that they know. There's something going on. That's the reason why they're so staunch in what they believe. Or they're wanting everybody to think that.
Yeah, and see, that's something I just have never understood. You know, why allow the police to blame your family member of a double murder and be okay with that?
Yeah, just accept it and move on, pretty much.
Because I think there's more of a story behind that than they're letting on that they know. I mean, they know. I think they know more about what went on and what it's all about than they're putting out there. That's why they're wanting us to live alone. It's the only thing I can reason with.
Yeah. That would make sense.
Yeah, because the information, we've been getting on those phone records, and this is from people who, from a person who actually works at the phone company, and they looked at that and they're just like, okay, I can explain to you what this is and what it's saying, but I can't tell you why it happened. They said, this is one of the weirdest things I've ever seen.
Really?
Yeah. It just loops, and they're like, why is it looping? And I said, that was my question. I was hoping you could tell me. So, yeah, just too many weird things. And the fact that the police don't even want to address any of the issues. The Minnesota Attorney General doesn't want to address it. The Dakota County Sheriff doesn't want to address it. Nobody is addressing anything in this case. Everybody's just completely shut down. It's just
that's a good sign. That's a good sign.
Yeah. Oh man, I was hoping Dan would be on by now.
He's hiding.
He's hiding.
Yeah, he's hiding.
It's like, come on, Dan, you said you could make it.
Yeah, we're going to be on a show this Tuesday, Dark Docs, and they usually cover a lot of things dealing with like children and stuff like that. So I guess this kind of fits in with that because there was a child, a 5-year-old child involved in this. So I'm looking forward to that as well. But so I know Dan's got a lot on his plate, and all of us do. We all have stuff that's going on.
Oh, yeah.
This is not our full-time job. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we're just doing whatever we can just to keep this case going until we can get some answers here. I think sometimes that gets lost in this whole thing.
Will we ever know when we get any answers?
Well, even a non-answer is still an answer. So even a stonewalling is still going to give us, I think, the answers that we need, answers that we're looking for. Some of these answers should be very simple.
Well, we already know David didn't do it, so.
Right, and it just seems like
one.
Yeah, with every question.
We got one answer.
Right, and with every question we have answered, there's 50,000 more.
That's right. But that's one for sure right there.
Right. Okay, Angela is asking a question. Has anybody had a psychologist review the footage of Rania?
No. To see if she was autistic or something like that. I guess
or what her demeanor would mean.
What her demeanor was, yeah.
Yeah. That's another good question.
Yeah, I'm not sure why. I mean, shouldn't we be looking more at David and trying to figure out his, I guess? Or I'm curious about why.
I don't think there was anything wrong with him. I think the family was scared.
I mean, he looks perfectly normal to me, and I know weirdos.
Right. Right. I've got a few of them in my family.
Right?
Yeah. I think they feared something. I believe there was something going on that they began to fear. I really do.
Do you think they were planning on leaving?
No.
Think they're going to stay in this state?
Unless something happened, like the 1st of December or something like that caused them to react in some way or other because of it. Now, they could have been scared because that may have been why they were backing off from the family. There was something going on that we don't know.
Well, yeah. Well, one thing we do know that was going on was the whole thing between David and Danny Mason.
Right.
Where they were trying to get, David was trying to get Danny Mason to sign this stuff. It sounds like Danny Mason was kind of stalling.
Yeah. Now who knows how he really began to feel.
So I was wondering if maybe David was kind of distancing himself. Like, what if you could make a strong case? I think you can make a pretty strong case of Danny Mason having some type of rights, and maybe he felt like he should have gotten more. Maybe some of the family, maybe the friends sided more with Danny Mason than they sided with David, and this could have been a big court battle. I do believe this would have went to court. I don't see how they would have figured this out without something like that. I mean, if you read the last time that David and Danny kind of go back and forth, it's a little heated, and there are jabs thrown.
Yeah, see, but David had no problem giving everything that had to do with the rise to Danny. But as far as Gray State, he was very adamant about that was his, and why Danny wanted to fight that, because it's already been published and copyrighted in David's name. There's no way Danny could have won that, and David was just trying to get I see it as David was trying to throw out an olive branch, like, okay, here, I'll give you the rise, sign off on Gray State for whatever the reason may be, but he just wouldn't do it.
And the weird thing about that too is that when Dan Hennen talked to Mike Boggio, I don't know how to say his name. When he talked to one of the Mikes who was working with David, that Mike was like, I don't know why David did that. He didn't understand why David even went down that route and tried to get those forms from Danny Mason. So it sounds like they didn't even know about these forms.
Well, and I think that was just because David was trying to appease them, because I'm telling you, it's already a done deal. It's copyrighted. It's in David's name. There's no claim that Danny August, he would have to take it to court and truly prove that he came up with that, and would have to show, it's hard to do that. And win a case like that. So I see David as trying to do something nice because, like you had said before, Greg, that there was no way that Danny was going to get the lead in the Gray State for TV. There was just no way. They were going to go with A-list actors or even D-list actors, but Danny August Mason isn't even a D-list actor.
Right, but David promised him that.
Right.
David says that, so David's lying to him there.
Well, and maybe he thought he had more pull than he did. I don't know.
Yeah. He said he was going to make Danny the main actor in that with the same character, and there's no way that would ever happen. I'm sure Danny Mason knew that too.
Yeah, and Angela here is saying that she listened to the Mike B interview and that he is an A-list director, so there was no way that they were going to put Danny August Mason in the Gray State TV series.
Don't you think that would make him pretty upset?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. What'd you say?
I said, don't you think that would make him pretty upset?
Yes, absolutely. I agree with you. And Angela was also saying that she was talking, well, maybe thinking about as far as the psychologist goes, to look at Rania to have the psychologist look at her body language, because she thinks that there are tells in nonverbals, and she says she sees fear in Rania.
That I haven't heard. I haven't seen that either. She seems like her mom, just very perky and very outgoing. Of course, I mean, I've only seen a few videos, but
that day she was at school, she was pretty scared.
Right, but that was one time out of months, right? So school probably started in September. That happened in October. Once out of 4 months was the only thing that they noticed. And that is a big deal, though. It is a big deal with whatever happened, whatever she was going through. Something happened, definitely. But what was going on around that time in the Crowley home? I can't really see it. Well, that was when Kamel's sister was coming around and all that. I don't know.
Okay, and Angela's talking about a video of Rania talking about death and dying. Were these the video clips that were in the slop-umentary? Because I don't recall seeing any of that. Okay, so
I haven't seen any of it either.
Yeah, they're just talking it's just her talking, and but I really think a lot of that was taken out of context. I think David and Kamel are trying to let her talk, and they're also trying to explain to her why we don't do that, why we don't kill people. Now, if you guys have seen somebody sent me in the group, somebody posted a video from David in 2012 or 2013, and it shows them filming a bunch of cops running into two houses, storming into the house, taking people out, holding them at gunpoint, and taking them off. That's the whole scene, right? Well, if you look, not only is David's wife there, his daughter is there too. And this is a very violent scene, by the way.
And that's enough to scare a child to death.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It'll traumatize a child.
But she was not traumatized by it. She understood, as far as, because there's a couple spots where, you know, she's there and she gets it. You know, she's not like traumatized by it. You can totally tell that she understands that this is all fake. This is just a film. So I don't know. I mean, she also might have been set up to be part of the Gray State TV series too. You never know. It could have been a child actor in the works.
That would sure traumatize me.
It traumatized me watching it. But then because that's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see if David's wife and his daughter, if they were actually there, and they were both calm. And just if you look at that's what if we're going to get a psychologist, I'd want the psychologist to actually look at that and see how calm that this daughter is treating all of this stuff.
But yeah, she may not have seen these scenes that we're talking about. Or was she in the house that the cops were rushing into?
She was in the house. She was outside. I think she was part of this scene. So she might have been one of the kids that gets dragged out and everything.
Well, I know one scene was where both of them were sitting on a couch.
Yeah, that's from the trailer. This was filmed later on.
Okay.
Yeah, because for whatever reason, you know, they're filming. Once the trailer comes out in 2012, they're still filming scenes. They're still filming a lot of other things after that. And I think heavily in 2013 they were filming a lot of different stuff. But
yeah, and you know, this kind of goes along with I think, Sophia, you and I were talking about this, or all three of us were talking about this, or four of us. We were talking about the how David was filming these, you know, the aggressive, violent scenes for his movie, and how some people were saying that David suffered from PTSD, which, you know, severe enough to make him quote-unquote snap, but how someone with true PTSD would not be able to, not only, they wouldn't be able to direct it, they wouldn't be able to watch it or hear those fake gunshots going off. There's just no way.
That's right.
Yes, we were talking about it last night.
Okay, thanks. I couldn't remember.
You're welcome.
I know a lot of people who were in Vietnam that have PTSD, and I guarantee it don't take much to set them off.
Now, back then, did they call it PTSD, or was it just the whole shell shock thing?
They called it shell shock.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but so it's PTSD now.
But when did that change? Like, why would they?
I don't know.
Just seems ridiculous. Shell shock.
Yeah, if you look here, Angela, she's like saying, I agree about the PTSD. My husband can't handle fireworks. I have a neighbor next door to me, and he suffers from PTSD. And when 4th of July comes around, he freaks out so bad that this last year he actually had to leave and go find a hotel away from where all the fireworks were being lit off. There was a time I lived above, when I lived in Minneapolis, I lived above a man who actually was in Vietnam, and he was in a wheelchair, lost both of his legs, and when he would suffer a flashback, it was horrible. I mean, and he constantly suffered from, back then, what they called shell shock, and I don't see any of that in David. None of it.
No, I don't either. I mean, anybody's got PTSD couldn't go through what he did.
I agree with you.
No way.
Yeah, and there, I mean, he was out in 2009, right? And there's no mention of PTSD. Nobody's talking about. It was never ever brought up until afterwards, which is also kind of weird. It's like, why even bring that stuff up when you don't really know that had anything to do with this? But it was. But the same people that were working with him didn't have any problem working with the guy who had PTSD that could have went into a dark place and snapped and all of that.
No,
that was fine, just as long as they were making money. It seemed that was okay.
Right.
Yeah, and Angela, she goes on to say, she says, my husband's is pretty bad. Even sounds on the highway near our house is troublesome. I don't think David would have been this successful if he suffered from PTSD.
No.
And I agree, 100%.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of violent scenes going on. And not only that, David was always going to the firing range with his buddies. You know, with those guys. They were always out shooting at the range and practicing. So, yeah, that goes totally against the whole PTSD and whatever, that theory.
Just thoughts going through his head would be enough to set him off.
Yeah.
I agree. No PTSD.
Yeah.
No evidence.
We got another one settled there, didn't we?
Yeah, we
got two.
We're going to get it all figured out. We'll tick them off one at a time.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I have, Greg. Go ahead.
I see on y'all's post you're going to do this every Friday night.
I want to at least do it once every month. It's hard to do it every week.
Okay, once a month. Yeah, okay. As long as I can keep up with you.
Well,
I think you can. You've done a pretty good job so far.
You're here.
Yeah, I try to keep up with
you. And what's your name again? I'm sorry, I didn't catch it for about the millionth time.
Pansy, like the flower.
Oh, okay, Pansy. Okay, good.
Yeah.
I'll remember you from now on.
Okay, good. Yeah, we've had a few conversations.
Yes, we have.
But, you know, I like the way you decipher things. I really do. I've watched all I can get of you on YouTube. I really do.
I tell you,
I don't know.
No, go ahead.
I don't know why my makeup is like it is, but I get into these things and I don't let go.
That's a good thing, though. It's a good trait.
Yeah, I guess it is. Anyway.
Hey, Sophia, you've been kind of quiet. You got anything to add?
Well, I don't think so. I mean, we have been talking off and on throughout the week and everything, I was kind of more focused on something else, a different case, and given the Crowley case a little bit of a break after we worked on several things over the weekend. But I haven't really come across anything else since.
Okay, yeah, it's like we're still trying to tie up some loose ends and figure out if we're really going to come out with everything we found out. Well, I think we will eventually.
I'm curious to see what the PI finds as well.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm very curious about that.
Oh, yeah. Maybe he can clear it all out for us.
I hope so. At least, figure out something. Get some clear answers. Help us figure out how to get some answers. But
I bet he's having fun.
Yeah, I'm sure. She's got a lot of stuff to go through. I mean, think about how much data there is. Yeah.
Those kind of things I like to do.
It's stressful. I don't know.
Yes, it is. I have to break away from this.
Yeah.
Sometimes, to clear my mind.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way you can do it in order to keep things straight.
Yeah, I know. I really feel myself getting there, too, where I need to kind of ease back a little bit and just, but it's, it's difficult. You just got to pace yourself, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, well, I want to throw something in here. Happy birthday, Angela. Thank you for joining us on your birthday.
That was awesome. That's great. Happy birthday.
Well, you guys, it's storming down here in Texas.
Uh-oh.
It's been raining down here forever.
That's not good.
I couldn't go and pick Dawn up this morning. I was flooded. I almost stalled my car out.
Oh, no.
And I had to turn back.
We've had some bad weather down here.
I'm in the Corpus Christi.
And you know what? I went and bought me a fishing license. That's the reason why it keeps raining.
It's all your fault.
It's my fault.
Exactly.
But I tell you, we've had some rain. We really have. So.
Sounds good. Good peeps. Any final words? Any final thing here before we sign off? Anyone?
I think I'm through.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm done too. But thanks for the conversation, everyone, and thanks for joining Pansy and Angela and whoever else was online but didn't speak. Thank you for at least joining us.
That's right.
Yeah.
Always next time.
Enjoy it.
Yeah, maybe next time we'll get some of them out there. Talk a little more. But
you guys take care.
You
all
too.
Right. You too. We'll chat soon. All right, everybody.
Okay,
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Good night.